Alright guys, TouchGripper here, back again today. Hope you're all enjoying your Saturday. Today I wanted to talk about a number of things, mainly surrounding this rumour of the PowerPoint presentation that was shown to the Call of Duty players and the casters and the other individuals that attended that CDL Player Summit a few days ago now. Few other topics to discuss as well. Era Eternity are back. You guys may well know of this organisation if you've been following Call of Duty from the, Infinite Warfare, World War II days, especially a couple of years ago. So that's what we're going to discuss today. A lot of ground to cover indeed. So like if you guys enjoy, subscribe if you're new. As always, the YouTube algorithm would greatly appreciate it. And let's hop into it here. Firstly, very close to Christmas as well. I've just finished work, at least for actually having to be in work. I'm going to be working from home on Monday. And then after that, I'm in the clear for a couple of weeks over the Christmas break. It's going to be lovely. Then hopefully fresh for 2020 going forward. And hopefully you guys get a chance to recharge your batteries as well over the Christmas period. So Era Eternity, for immediate release, we are proud to announce that with the new year approaching, Era has resumed full operations. Transparency during this time has been important, as we have finished settling all debts to our past professional teams. We appreciate all parties involved and have sent many thanks to our past players for their patience during this time. We have so much planned for the upcoming year that we can't wait to share with everybody. But for now, #Era for Eternity. This is from the management of the organisation. And Era Spades comes out with this. It's been almost 2 years in the making, but we've done it. I apologise to everyone who was affected by our decisions, should be affected. I hope that with this you will accept our apology and we can all grow and learn from this. Debt is paid off, only up from here. So if you guys, and thanks to OpTic for pointing this out to me. So, Era Eternity, let's have a look at their performances, I guess, over their career as an organisation. So yeah, this should probably be about the correct size. From the Infinite Warfare days, they had this team. Then into World War II, they picked up an actual decent team towards the end. This team of Ricky, Decimate, Ferrer and Bevels actually went on to place, I think, top 6 at London, but they moved on to an organisation called Reckless at the time, if you guys remember that. No, not London, Birmingham, sorry. But yeah, actually a decent team in the end. These guys did have some, there was I guess a meme around them, right, with Era streaks, if you guys remember that one. So I think Ferro was very well known for using his streaks very poorly in the respawn game modes especially. So when Ferro would mess up his streaks, people would say, oh, Era streaks, like, because they didn't get a kill from a health storm or anything, or guide bomb or whatever it was called in that game. It still kind of happens in the Twitch chat now where someone might mess up a streak and someone says Era streaks, if you guys didn't know where that originated from. But as an organisation, they're very well known for not paying players on time. I think these guys definitely had issues with that. Now, they do say they've settled all their debts. I haven't seen anything from pros coming out and saying it, but, if, you expect to get paid, right? Just because they're paid you now doesn't mean they've done a great thing. But yeah, thought this is pretty interesting. It seems like they're back in the game. I personally think it seems like they need some sort of rebrand, right? Jack as well was saying it. Look, Era is always going to have a bad name in esports after this, what's happened. I personally would rebrand it, and because that's usually what happens, right? Some dodgy people come along, they make an organisation, they make a bit of money, they don't pay their players, then they pay off their players, maybe they change their Twitter handle, they change their name, come back under a different organisation, rinse and repeat, baby. I think maybe the same thing might be happening with Red Reserve right now, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Wouldn't want to go into it today. Gentlemen's agreements list, let's have a look at this. So we've talked about the GA list for a while ago. This is things that the pros decide that, they're just not very well balanced. They don't make the game fun to play. They don't make the game as competitive as possible. So they just agree between them, let's not use these things. So suppressors, no mounting, which I think is fair enough. No streaks is still an interesting one. 2 smokes in respawn, 3 smokes in S&D as far as we know right now. No hardline, no equipment delay. No lasers was banned recently, and no thermals as well. I'm not exactly sure what the situation is with thermals because I just don't play the game enough to know. But I know that they made it where if you had a thermal scope, initially you could not see through smoke grenades at all. Pretty crazy. I think they've now reverted that so that you can see through smokes, but you would expect to be able to put cold-blooded on to counter it, right? But I'm not even sure that having cold-blooded on even works in this game, or maybe in terms of the way the perks are set up, they decide that even if it does work, thermals are still too strong for being able to look through smokes in that regard, just because of how useful and important smokes are in this game. So some interesting things to keep your eyes on going forwards. And this is also crazy, I thought. This is the average ages of players within the CDL for the upcoming season. So, feast your eyes on this real quick. So Atlanta are the youngest team, I think, by a margin, just over 20. So Simp and Celium have not even turned 19 yet. Abizi's just turned 20. Maniac and Priest are a little bit older, so they average out at 20. Chicago's probably pretty average. 22 is probably a bad average for what you're going to see here. So 22 and a half. Envoy's pretty young, but the rest of the guys are, getting on a bit, I guess. Gunnis is only 22. Clayster, this Dallas team is crazy. Yes, their average age is 22, but look at, Illy compared to Clayster, right? Like, this is nearly a decade gap. It's pretty crazy. I was thinking, because of course we're coming up to 2020, what I was like back in 2010, where I was, and, where I could be in 2030, in terms of, my life progression, I guess. And to think that Clayster is like a whole decade ahead of Illy in that sense, it's really remarkable. But yeah, that is the case. Illy has only just turned 18, and Shotzi not long behind that, but their average age is still 22, because of course they've got Krim and Clayster on the team. Florida, pretty young team, very similar ages on this one. There isn't really too much, actual analysis to be done here, but I just thought it was interesting to take a look at and feast your eyes on this, because a great bit of work done. I'll leave the link to the Redditor that did all this stuff down below, and the Paris team is difficult to say really, because there's 10 players on the squad anyway. Seattle being the clear oldest here, with no players under 22, that being Octane and Slacked, and then Karma and the rest of the guys have definitely probably they're in the latter half of their career, let's just say that. So let's move onwards here then. This is what I wanted to talk about, this Lacefield tweet which has been brought up. Modern Warfare is probably the best competitive Call of Duty we've had to date. Trophies hurt you, Dead Silence makes you a super soldier, and we can't forget about the fantastic spawns. This will be the best year by far. So look, this is obviously a tweet by Morgs. He's not particularly happy with the state of the game, as are, I would say, the majority of professional players at the current time. It's not a great situation a lot of professionals find themselves in, really. I do tend to think the professionals at least have it better than the amateurs, right? The professionals, you're signed to a team, you're going to get a salary this year, regardless of what happens, whether you win or lose. As much as it would be great to win every single tournament, it's not going to happen at the end of the day, but at least you're getting paid, right? The people I really feel bad for But those guys who want to make it as a pro, maybe they had a decent season in Black Ops 4, they've got a taste for having success at open events. Now we're in a franchise system, maybe they don't have the connections to get onto a great squad, and they're looking and they're thinking like, what are my prospects here? What's my potential? I have to play this game, which isn't greatly designed for competitive play for a very long period of time, and I have to grind my absolute heart into it to get any opportunity on a professional team, and I have to stay on the good side of the people over at the league as well. It's a very difficult thing to put yourself through and commit to. Robbie Beeman, of course, has been a really notable player over the Black Ops 4 season. He's decided to retire and go through a different route with, how he wants his life to go. And there's many players that aren't in as good a position as Robbie B that have, not made that decision yet, but may make that decision over the coming season. So I think the pros, they have it bad, I guess, playing a game that isn't designed great for competitive play, but they've got it much better than people who are trying to make this their living and trying to do their all to make that happen. But Lacefield says in reply, this will definitely make the PowerPoint next time. And Lacefield was at that player summit, which makes you think, okay, what's going on here? Seems like there was a PowerPoint before, I imagine, in terms of what Lacefield is saying. And next time they're going to have another PowerPoint saying things not to tweet, right, regarding how you're going to get fined and whatever. We've talked about that over previous days, but it was still an interesting thing to discuss. And as Morg says again, the sad thing is this is the only thing we can do to actually have a voice, which I find a lot of contradictory opinions, right? So Scraps came out after the player summit and said, things are improving, it's all sunshine and rainbows. Maybe he was joking a little bit, and Morgs straight up come out and says, like, we have basically no communication with the developers. Only tweeting is the only way we actually get our frustrations known within the community, which is not an ideal scenario for sure, but I guess that is what it is to some degree. And well, sometimes these snarky remarks aren't doing any favors with their reputation with the developers, and that is definitely something to consider, right? Like they're not gonna take people seriously when they're constantly doing tweets like this. At the same time, I understand the frustrations, and I do respect the pros to some degree for coming out and saying a lot of this stuff, because if you're an amateur player, as I said, that has it really difficult, you're not in a position to have the audience to actually have a legitimate impact. Where some of these pros do, right? And they're probably, if things do happen as a result of some of these tweets, they're doing the community a favor on the whole. I just think that some of the attitudes and some of the the sarcastic ways that the pros are going about these tweets, this is a prime example. is the kind of things that the league doesn't want to see, and also Infinity Ward isn't going to take particularly kindly to, even if, you know, that they might be in the right, the pros at least, in the right on this occasion. So these are some comments on the Reddit thread that came out as a result of this. So every meeting, every event, for example, has a PowerPoint presentation about a wide range of things, so always these kind of things going on. And, you know, Backspace says, people seem to forget the pros dream of being the best. It's hard to be the best when the base game doesn't allow you to do so. And yeah, okay, it's a nice take, but as I say, the pros have it better than a lot of the amateurs. And I think Canadian Turo is onto something here. As we've seen, a lot of the pros can act like children on Twitter and tweet out some, you know, regrettable stuff without giving a thought. It should be obvious that they would talk about this. At least PowerPoint would be a second medium to reinforce the message. Yeah, nothing surprising, right? I guess at Activision, of course, they're going to have talk about how the, you know, the pros can interact on Twitter and other channels. Then using social media to talk badly about the presentation on what to do on social media due to kind of stupid. They've surprised their jobs have rules, right? And I guess people will come back at OG Pathfinder's thoughts here and say, you know, these shouldn't be rules that they have to adhere to. You know, in a proper league, you'd be able to criticize things that are going on rather than just making it sound like all sunshine and rainbows. And I definitely agree to that to some degree. At the same time, yeah, it is what it is. You've got to suck it up and get on with it, I guess, unless you're going to form a players' union that's going to try and create some better rights for players versus Activision Blizzard in the league they are running. But I don't think that's particularly likely in the near future, but we'll have to see. So, you know, some other comments here. Esport players have to understand that leagues are moving towards more mainstream formats and regulations. It's not 2011 anymore. If you criticize referees, rules, etc. in other sports, you get fined or punished. That's what's going to happen here. If you work hard, yes, but you're extremely privileged. I mean, yes, extremely privileged position these pro players happen to find themselves in. At the same time, it doesn't mean that you can't criticize referees or say a decision was bad, right? I mean, I watched a fair amount of football, the Premier League in the United Kingdom. If a referee makes a bad decision, of course, the pundits and the people it employs to promote the league, I guess, to some degree, you know, they can talk about, look, that was a bad decision. It is what it is. We're not attacking him as an individual, but, you know, it's not a great decision. And I think a lot of that could transfer over to esports, right? Yes, we've got nothing against the developers as individuals, but the decisions they've been making may not be good decisions, right? Which just is fact of the matter. So yeah, some interesting comments here, and this final one from Maxi. Disagree with this take. Yes, in other sports you can be criticized for having negative takes on referees. In other sports they understand they need to cater to the athletes because ultimately they bring the views. In CoD they don't care if they make the game less competitive, they just want to make money, and that is the issue with Call of Duty compared to a normal sport. In the sense that in Call of Duty, most of the money is coming through casual game sales, microtransactions, etc. The athletes, Call of Duty esports professional players are such a tiny fraction of the revenue in terms of what they bring that they don't have as much leverage, and it's difficult to take their opinions as fact, right, and revolve things around that to the best of their degree. And you know, again, that does mean that the players are going to have less power in the league and what they can say. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like if you did, subscribe if you're new. As always, Christmas is fast approaching, as is the new year and the new decade at that. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.